Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Today, we're going to be talking about shocking DM moments. Well, in this case, I was the DM that shocked my players. I was DMing a campaign in which a relatively low-level party, somewhere around 3rd level, consisting of 2 Wood Elf rogues, a Mountain Dwarf fighter, a High Elf wizard, and a human fighter, had just left the town after stealing a magic item. That night, I released my surprise. Ooh, wink wink. First, some backstory. At the very beginning of the campaign, those characters landed in a large port city. In typical PC fashion, they bargained for the supplies they wanted, and then proceeded to travel to the local tavern. Wanting to twist things up rather than presenting a bar fight, I had the bartender walk up to the dwarf fighter and inform him that he was near beating that tavern's drinking record. If he could beat the record, the dwarf would receive a prize of 10 gold pieces, and a plaque would be hung on the wall with his name on it. The dwarf naturally couldn't say no, and started draining mugs of ale left and right. However, on the last mug, he failed a con save and regurgitated it all, and sadly lost the contest. The character, being as drunk as he was, tried to mop up the mess with his larger beard. One of the Wood Elf rogues, may he ever live in glory, salute to you, took the tipsy dwarf outside and dunked his head in the horse's water trough while simultaneously snatching a few things from the dwarf. Apparently, the dwarf's player didn't mind. He suddenly looked at his character sheet with a mischievous smile and said, "Can the dwarf make a charisma check to see if any women are attracted to him?" I reply, "Sure, but nothing will happen unless you roll a 20 on the first try. No rerolls." Of course, he rolls a nat 20, and I grudgingly generate a random NPC who turns out to be an elf, and the rogue gets jealous. Now, skip ahead many sessions after the dwarf fighter and elf NPC have had many good times together. Woohoo! The party just stole a magical sword shard, one of the 5 needed to reforge a famous blade, and is fleeing the city to avoid capture. After several close calls with the guards, they make it out of town and travel for several hours, stopping to camp under a sizable tree. Around midnight, I reveal my surprise. The dwarf, sleeping with the elf NPC, suddenly feels hands around his throat, trying to strangle him. He manages to get off a scream and wakes the other characters before his airway is blocked. The fact that I don't mention the NPC waking worries the dwarf player. He begins to fear that she may have already been killed by the assailant. Oh, well, the truth is much worse. Peering through the night, the other characters see a doppelganger with its hands squeezing the struggling dwarf's throat. As soon as I say that out loud to the players, the dwarf's player slowly looks up at me with a disappointed face and says, "You mean to tell me that this whole time I was with a doppelganger?" I nod, and he says, "So everything I've been doing with her this whole time was with a doppelganger?" I nod again, then explain why I did it. First off, that NPC was never supposed to exist in the first place. Second, nobody, especially not an elf and a drunk dwarf, loves each other at very first sight like that. The doppelganger didn't love the dwarf, but it put up with him so it could stay with the party and maybe steal some of their well-earned loot later on. And third, the elf was just a hindrance to the rest of the party, and it was better this way. Surprisingly, he took the news pretty well, even if he was a bit shocked. The party made quick work of the doppelganger without too much trouble, although there was one funny incident where the rogue accidentally stabbed the dwarf with a short sword and went back to sleep ready to continue their adventure in the morning. That's one heck of a romance story gone wrong. He said, "Yup, your plan works." This needs some background, though. My group was playing Curse of Strahd. The spoiler warning, possibly. And I was doing something the group calls double fist. Okay, basically, there are 3 players, so it was agreed that in each campaign, one of us would play 2 characters to even out the party's numbers. The group had done this before, and it was pretty standard, and I was excited to have my first turn doing it. My primary character was Belmonargonaut, and not much of importance to the story. The important one was my secondary character, Darts von Zahovic, Alucard reference, read darts backwards. The Castlevania references in this game are strong, and I was using a homebrew Damphir race. This was before they actually added Damphir to 5th edition. In the past, Darts had convinced a group of cultists that he was Strahd's son, which is true, and that he was a vampire. Sort of true, half vampire. After a couple sessions, we as a party realized that the cult had to be eliminated, but we couldn't take them in a straight-up fight. 12 cult fanatics versus 4 level 6 PCs, so I had an idea. Darts would offer to turn the cult into vampires. Now, to become a vampire, you need to die from a vampire's bite. My plan was for Darts to bite them to death, and since he wasn't a true vampire, they would just stay dead. I was pretty sure the DM would say no, but to my surprise, not only did he say, "Yup, your plan works," but every single cultist volunteered to be killed. Even if things had worked, I only expected half to go down. He told me that even though what I was doing was pretty campaign shifting, it made sense, and in proper role-playing, the cultists would probably fall for the ploy. He asked me to roll anyway just to see if everything went according to plan, and because it was so plot-shifting, he wanted there to at least be a chance of something going wrong. I then proceeded to roll a nat 20 with a +3 from Deception. Even with a stellar roll, it surprised me that he would actually let me kill one of the primary antagonist groups so easily. The whole cult went down. Definitely not the way I thought things would go walking in. And hey, that's actually really cool, and don't drink the punch, kids. And the darkness starts to recede from his face. This deserves context. Why, yes, it does. I would like to know why I read that. The captain of the Lord's Alliance in Neverwinter was an original character of my DM. Picture a tall, beautiful man, Irish accent, built like an ox, kind, professional, long, flowing red hair, chivalrous, polite, hard-working, fair, good with animals and kids. Probably should have been a paladin, loyal to the cause of helping people regardless of their circumstances. My character, a noble of Zakara, was smitten. Over a year of roleplay in our games between adventures, she had fallen for him hard. But while her party knew she was head over heels for him, she hadn't told him yet. She would ask him on a date after she returned from a trip to Shadowdale. He was cursed with an aspect of a dead dark god. We haven't found out which one, even now. But he was a part of a deadly game of Highlander, where he would be forced into conflicts with the other aspects, trying to force them to kill each other until there was only one. Not all of them were evil or violent, but things would happen to make them fight. These aspects would try to bond with their host's soul to absorb the person. It took the strength of will to hold it at bay, but it sometimes made them volatile. The worse their emotional state, the easier it became for the aspect to gain some control. Now let's fast forward. Soon had basically kidnapped him to put him near my character because my PC was in love with him. This caused a lot of stress in the dutiful NPC. Like a lot. He's the War Duke of Neverwinter, and we were Shadowdale. To put that into perspective for those who don't have a map of Faerun, he's coming from Washington State, and we're basically in Louisiana. We found out he was planning on trying to court my PC when she returned, but you know, goddess of love, am I right? We left him in Shadowdale as we tried to figure out how to return him. We had nearly died on the adventure as my character decided to hold the line as a rogue against the frost giant rather than run at 13 HP. Well, the giant hit her. She was critical but was stabilized in a medical ward. When she came to and the rest of the party had rested, they discovered that the Harper base was in shambles. Something large was tearing its way through the town. We just knew it was him. When we found the monster, the party realized he was fighting to control it. Dark tendrils kept trying to drag him back into it. Think Venom. He begged us to not let him hurt anyone else. That if my character had any love for him, she wouldn't let him become a monster. My party fought him. Now in my head, I knew she couldn't hurt him. For 2 rounds, he begged her to finish it before he couldn't stop it from hurting her. She dropped back to the back row at the party's behest. They wouldn't ask her to kill the man she loved. For 2 agonizing rounds, the party both empathized with her and struggled to put him down without her. And then his control snapped just a little. He ran through the party to get to her and swung, but she managed to dodge the strikes. He missed both attacks. One last plea. He called to her to end him, to stop him from hurting the woman he loved. And she told him, "Never. I can't willingly hurt you any more than you would willingly hurt me." And with her ASMR healing hands ability, basically a mini lay on hands, she healed him for all she could. And then the darkness starts to recede from his face. You know, that story actually made me cry a little bit, but that was a very uplifting story. Thank you very much for that one. It all began with the curse of Swiss cheese. We're going from a sad story to a Swiss cheese story. I'm excited. We all have this house rule. If the person, let's call him Jay, comes on and decides to do something to our characters, then that's exactly what happens. This is us playing D&D over voice chat on Discord, since, quarantine and all that. Anyway, Jay doesn't play, but hops on from time to time to say cursed things. Interesting events have occurred, like a character revived by sacrificing 3 fingers, a high-level skill granted in return for your toes, a loss of a spell, random stat values increasing, and such. So that day, we were a few sessions into this new campaign. I was playing a rogue. There was also a barbarian, a sorceress, and a fighter. Jay comes on and proclaims, "I shall fill your inventory with 20 pieces of Swiss cheese." Jay was talking directly to the DM. Jay probably didn't realize that the DM is no longer a player, since the DM was a player in the previous campaign. Well, anyway, Jay left. The DM is left confused with what to do with 20 pieces of Swiss cheese. Well, he picked a character at random who turned out to be the barbarian and gave him all 20 pieces of Swiss cheese. And it's cursed, because everything Jay gives is cursed. The cursed Swiss cheese, when consumed, gives a random cursed effect of the DM's choosing. It cannot be given, dropped, or destroyed, and it can only be eaten. Until eaten, it will fill your inventory. Thus, the barbarian continued to eat 1 piece of cheese per day, gaining strange temporary effects like his hands disappearing, his body becoming the consistency of butter, turning into a monkey, and such. Oh yeah, it was annoying for the barbarian, so he asked Jay to remove the rest of the cheese, only for Jay to double it. 32 cursed pieces of Swiss cheese remain in the barbarian's inventory. We were resting in a town when the barbarian decided he had enough. He decided to just scarf down multiple pieces of cheese at once, sometimes 5, sometimes 10. He really needed the inventory space. Stranger effects took place, and he was now down to 10 pieces of cursed Swiss cheese. The DM noted that the final 10 were especially powerful. The barbarian, after a quick moment of contemplation, said, "Fuck it, I'm risking it. I'm eating the rest of it." Now, what cursed effects would you think he'd get? Leave it in the comments below before we continue. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Turn to stone, grow many eyes, melt into a puddle, death via hilarious means. Oh, how about summoning a dragon? Yep, 10 powerful pieces of cursed Swiss cheese later, a dragon came along to kill us all. A near-death experience later, the session was over. The DM admitted that he planned for the dragon to come along no matter how the cheese was consumed, and we vocally gave him a bonk on the head, and we let the matter slide. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and comment down below letting us know a shocking moment that you've experienced, witnessed, or done as a DM. We love you all. Please be safe, happy, healthy, and know that we all love you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.